Have you ever felt like something was off, but couldn't quite figure out what it was? Imagine going to a routine doctor's visit, thinking everything is fine, and then hearing the words, "Don't go home tonight. They're planning to put you in a nursing home." That's exactly what happened to me. And what I found out after that, well, you won't believe it. I stood there, frozen. The doctor, Dr. Henry, had just slipped a small folded note into my coat pocket as he looked around nervously, like he was afraid someone might see. His eyes were shaking, and his hand was a little unsteady. I didn't know what to think, but the moment I felt the note in my pocket, I knew something wasn't right. My heart was racing, and my mind was spinning. Outside the exam room, my daughter-in-law Amber was talking to the nurse, smiling smiling sweet. "Thank you, doctor," she said in that sugary voice of hers. "I just want to make sure my mother-in-law gets the best care." I forced a smile, but inside I could feel a cold knot tightening in my stomach. At that moment, I thought about how Amber had been acting lately. She had always been sweet, but there was something in her voice, something in the way she kept pushing me to let her help with my finances and medical stuff. She would always say, she would always say, huh, she would always say, yes, always say, so say, she would always say, always stuff, always objections. It was like she was trying to take over and vet her. But now I couldn't shake the feeling that I'd been trusting the wrong person. Dr. Henry's face tightened when he saw Amber at the door. Amber smiled brightly and came in, her voice dripping with sweetness as she said, "Mom, are you done? I told the nurse you often forget your meds. They said we should do regular memory checks to be safe." I stared at the doctor for a moment, wondering why Hayes just keep taking your meds as before. Then he put a hand on my shoulder, a strange gesture I'd never seen from him before. It was like he was saying goodbye without saying the words. I bent to grab my purse, and that's when it happened. Dr. Henry slipped the note into my pocket so fast I almost didn't see it. The action was so quick, I thought maybe I had imagined it. But when Amber shook the doctor's hand with that fake smile and said, but when Amber shook the doctor's hand with that fake smile and said, "Watch it see today. What feed fight away? Your buds, just solini. Tikitis, il set book in court." Dr. Henry soaked the doctor's hand with that fake smile and said, I knew something was happening, something I wasn't supposed to see. We left the clinic in silence. Amber started the car and turned on the radio, humming along to some song as if nothing was wrong, but I could barely focus on the music. My mind was racing. I sat there gripping my purse tightly in my lap, my heart pounding. I couldn't stop thinking about the note. What did it say? What was going on? When we stopped at a red light, I reached into my cape. My hands were shaking as I opened the note. It read in hurried pencil strokes, "Don't go home. They came to see me yesterday. They want me to certify you're incompetent. Run." My breath caught in my throat. Run? What was going on? Who was trying to make me incompetent? Who came to see Dr. Henry? Why didn't he tell me? And why was my daughter-in-law involved in this? I glanced at Amber, still humming along, pretending everything was fine. Her si, sai, her si, her sishu, her se. She didn't know I had read the note. I turned away quickly, trying to hide the shaking of my hands. The light turned green, and Amber started driving again, but my mind was stuck on the note. What was I supposed to do now? How could I trust the people I had called family? My own son, Michael, and his wife Amber, were they planning to take everything from me? When we got home, Amber was all over me, like she had something to prove. "Mom, how about she have something to prove? Mom, how about she let me grab the bottle for you?" I felt my anger rising, but I swallowed it down. I knew Amber was trying to set the stage, trying to prove that I was forgetful and that I couldn't take care of myself. I didn't answer her right away. I just walked to my room slowly, my heart still racing. What was happening to my life? That night, after dinner, Michael came home from work. Amber jumped right in, as if she was ready for the next part of the doctor said her memory is weak. Maybe it's time to start talking about power of attorney. Michael didn't look at me as he spoke. His voice was calm, almost too calm. Mom, you should think about it. It would make things easier for us to arrange. You wouldn't want everything to get messy, would you? I smiled, trying to keep my cool. Okay, I'll think about it. Amber's eyes gleamed with triumph, but she tried to hide it behind a smile. I saw raw zoom. I saw raw train. She was planning something, and it wasn't for my benefit. I spent the night sitting alone in the living room, still holding that note from Dr. Henry. The house, once warm and filled with the sounds of family, felt cold now, like a prison. I walked to the safe, where I kept my important papers. Robert's insurance papers, some stock certificates, and the financial ledger I had kept all these years. The code to the safe was something only I knew you. The code to the safe was something only I knew you. The code to the safe was something only I knew you. But underneath that fear was something else, something stronger. I was going to fight. I wouldn't let them take what Robert and I had built. I didn't sleep that night. I knew the next step would be crucial. I had to figure out what to do. How could I protect myself from my own family? Little did I know, the next day would set everything in motion, and I would soon realize just how far they were willing to go to take what was mine. But that's when I started how far they were willing to go to take what was mine. But that's when I star. Don't go anywhere, because you won't believe what happened next. The next morning, I woke up with that note from Dr. Henry still burning in my mind. I couldn't shake the feeling that something terrible was coming. Amber had been so sweet lately, too sweet, always hovering over me, suggesting I needed more help, more care, like I couldn't manage my own life. But I was no fool. I knew when someone was trying to take advantage. I kept my morning. Someone was trying to take advantage. I kept my morning. I made coffee, read the paper on the porch, but everything felt different. The silence in the house was louder. I could hear every little creak in the floor, every tick of the clock. Even the birds outside seemed to be whispering secrets. I kept glancing at the door, waiting for someone to show up, for someone to knock, someone to tell me what to do next. Amber wasn't the only one I had to worry about. Michael, my son, was acting strangely too. Just so strangely too. It's sure, to us, straight is soon. Amber wasn't. He'd give me these half-hearted smiles, as if he was trying to convince himself everything was fine. I knew him better than that. He was hiding something, and I was determined to figure it out. It wasn't long before I started noticing more signs, small things that didn't make sense at first, but in hindsight, they painted a clear picture. Like the time Amber brought in my heart medication and casually said, "Mom, you should take this." The pharmacist is the pharmacist as such. The pharmacist is that heart. The pharmacist is my. She didn't even try to hide the excitement in her voice. I took the bottle from her, suspicious. When I looked at the label, it was different. The dose had been doubled. I didn't need that much. I knew my medications well, but Amber was acting like she was doing me a favor, like she was taking care of me, when in reality, she was playing a game with my health. Who changed this label? I asked, trying to sound calm, though inside I was furious. Oh. Amber smiled sweetly, like she had won some little victory. I took it to the pharmacy for you. The pharmacist said this one works better. You forgot, didn't you? I clenched my jaw. I didn't forget, I said, but I didn't argue. Instead, I took the bottle and, when she wasn't looking, switched it back with the old one. The dose was normal again, but I knew this wasn't over. It was just the beginning of something much bigger. Over the next few days, Amber's behavior grew more insistent. She cooked breakfast for me, cleaned my room, even brought me tea every night. It was like she was trying to create a picture of a frail, forgetful old woman who couldn't take care of herself. She kept saying things like, "Mom, you've been so forgetful lately. It's probably just stress." It was as if she wanted to make sure I was always dependent on her, that I'd never be peened. But I knew what she was doing. She was setting the stage, building a case to prove that I was incapable, that I needed someone to take care of me. And when she had enough evidence, that's when she'd strike. That night, after Amber went to bed, I sat in the living room holding the note from Dr. Henry again. "Don't go home," it said. "Run." The words echoed in my mind. I couldn't let this happen. I couldn't let them take everything Robert asked. I couldn't let them take everything Robert F. Everything Robert F. Didn't let them take everything Robert Opaki. It was where I had built my life with Robert, where we had raised our family, and I wasn't going to let anyone take it from me without a fight. The next morning, I decided to take action. I called Grant Meyer, the attorney who had helped Robert and me with some investments years ago. I trusted him, and I needed someone who understood the law to help me figure out what was happening. When I told him everything, his voice was calm but serious. Calm but serious. His voice was calm but serious. You need to record everything. Keep track of what Amber and Michael are doing. If they're planning something like this, we need evidence. I hung up the phone feeling a little less alone. But now I had to be careful. I couldn't let Amber or Michael know what I was doing. They were already starting to turn the screws, and I had to be 2 steps ahead. The next day, I acted like everything was normal. I played the part of the forgetful, trusting mother, Jet. Trusting mother, Jet. I made mistakes on purpose, forgot to turn off the stove, repeated myself a few times, and even called Amber by the wrong name. She was thrilled. She started recording every little thing, every moment when I forgot something. She thought she had me cornered. But what she didn't know was that I was playing her game. I was letting her record me, all the while recording her right back. I hid a small recorder in my purse, and every time Amber came near, I turned it on. I knew she was building a case against me, and now I was building one against her. Days went by, and I kept my eyes open for one against her. Days went by, and I kept my eyes open 5 ragons. Hedda bang just record me. And sure enough, one evening, I overheard a conversation between Amber and Michael in the living room. I wasn't supposed to hear it, but the door was slightly ajar, and I could hear their voices clearly. Amber, Michael said in a low voice, "Are you sure this is the right time? What if she figures it out?" Amber's voice was cold, calculated. "She won't figure it out. She's too old. And if she does, I'll handle it. I've got it all planned out." "And she does, I'll handle it. I've got it all planned out." And she'll? I got it all planned out. And she said that no. Those words stuck with me. It was like I was already a piece of property they were just waiting to claim, but I wasn't going down without a fight. The next day, I began to prepare. I went through Robert's things, making sure everything was in order. I found our old will, the one we had written together years ago. I made a copy of it and stored it in a safe place, one that Amber and Michael didn't know about. But even with all of that, I knew I needed me to hear. But even with all of that, I knew I needed to distagi, stiksave. But no, I needed carting, playson. I knew I needed be online. Nutty. I needed to get ahead of them, to be ready for whatever was coming next. I had to leave the house, but not for good, not yet. I needed to gather all the evidence I could before I made any big moves. That evening, I heard Amber and Michael talking again. I stayed quietly in my room, heart pounding in my chest. Amber was speaking to someone on the phone, her voice low and urgent. I couldn't hear everything, but I caught the words. I need to make a guessing words. I need to make a. The house, the money, the insurance, everything. I knew it was happening. They were trying to push me out to make me sign everything away, but I wasn't going to let them. I had to act fast. Little did they know, the moment I decided to fight back was the moment their plan began to unravel. But I couldn't do it alone. I needed help, and help was on the way. Stay tuned, because the next part of this story is one you won't forget. I could have guessed. I could have guessed Angel. Amber, my own daughter-in-law, was speaking in a way that made it clear she wasn't just worried about me. No, she was planning something. She wasn't just concerned about my memory or my health or even my well-being. She was focused on taking what I had left. It wasn't a plan born out of love or care. It was a plan driven by greed. As I lay in bed that night, my mind raced with everything I'd overheard. The house, the money, the insurer, the house, the money, the insured, the insurer. The house, the money, the insurer, with the insurer. I repeated those words in my head over and over again. They had to be stopped. But how? The more I thought about it, the clearer it became I wasn't going to sit back and let them do this to me. They thought I was old, frail, and forgetful, but I wasn't. I had years of experience on my side. And if they thought they could trick me, well, they were wrong. I wasn't going to let them get away with it. The next day, I took action. I knew I needed someone, Hanks. I knew I needed someone here. My first call was to Grant Meyer. He was the lawyer who had helped Robert and me with some of our investments years ago. I trusted him, and I needed his expertise now more than ever. "Grant, I think my family is planning to hurt me," I said when he answered the phone. My voice wavered, but I had to be strong. I needed him to take me seriously. "Janice, calm down," Grant said, his voice steady. "Start from the beginning. Tell me his card. Tell me his voice steady. Tell me his Kim, tell me his too. Tell me his." I spent the next hour on the phone with Grant, telling him everything I knew. I described Amber's behavior, her increasing control over my finances, the strange conversations between her and Michael, and of course, the note Dr. Henry had slipped into my pocket. I told him about the medication swap, the power of attorney talk, and how they were slowly isolating me, trying to make me seem like a forgetful old woman who couldn't take care of. Of what? When I was done, Grant was silent for a moment. "Janice," he said carefully, "you need to start documenting everything. You need to record every conversation, every strange thing they say or do. The more evidence we have, the stronger our case will be." I nodded even though he couldn't see me. "I've already started," I said, my voice low. "I've been recording Amber. She's been slipping up, saying things she shouldn't. I'm not going to let her read. She's been slipping up, saying things she shouldn't. I'm not going to let her read. Keep it up. But be careful. They're watching you, Janice. Don't give them any reason to think you're onto them." I hung up the phone, feeling a little better. At least I wasn't alone in this. I had someone who knew the law, someone who could help me expose what Amber and Michael were doing. But I still had to be cautious. I couldn't let them know what I was up to. Over the next few days, I continued to gather information. I kept the recorder with me at all times, hiding it in my purse, in my coat pocket, anywhere I could. Amber's behavior was starting to escalate, and I could see her frustration building. She was getting impatient. Every time I made a small mistake, she would be there, with a fake smile, telling me how much I needed her help. I was playing along. Every time she recorded me, I acted the part. I pretended to forget things. I repeated myself. I repeated myself and repeated myself. Well, I hate repeating myself. I could see her delight as she captured every little mistake on her phone, every slip-up I made. But what she didn't know was that I was playing her game. I was letting her record me while I was secretly recording her right back. The first time I heard her talking about helping me and taking care of everything, I made sure I caught it all. At night, I would sneak into the living room, open the recorder, and listen to what Amber had said. I could hear her voice talking about my memory, about how I was getting worse, how I would need someone to take control of my finances soon. But I wasn't just sitting back and letting her make her moves. I was moving too. I knew I had to protect myself and make sure I had the evidence I needed if I ever had to fight back. I started backing up everything. I made copies of the will, the financial documents, and anything else I could get my hands on. I even took extra precautions. I went to the bank, changed the passwords to my accounts, and made sure I had access to everything. Amber might have thought I was slipping, but I was still sharp. I wasn't going down without a fight. A week later, I overheard another conversation between Amber and Michael. They thought I was asleep, but I could hear everything clearly from my room. "Amber," Michael said, his voice low. "Are you sure this is the right time? Are you sure this is the right time? Are you sure this is the right time? This is the right time?" Amber's response was cold. "It has to be now. She's not going to last much longer. Once we get the power of attorney, we'll have everything we need. We can sell the house and pay off all our debts." Michael was silent for a moment, then said, "But what if she wakes up? What if she realizes what we're doing?" Amber's laugh was short and sharp. "She won't. She's too weak. And even if she does, we've got everything in place. We'll make sure she's declared E. We'll make sure she's declared as..." I felt my blood run cold. They were already planning to declare me incompetent, to take everything I had worked for, but they had underestimated me. The next day, I met with Grant again. I told him everything I had overheard. He listened carefully, then said, "Janice, they're moving quickly. You need to be ready to act fast. If they're planning to move forward with the guardianship petition, we need to have everything in order. You can't wait mut. You can't wait mut. You can't wait mus. Time was running out. I couldn't afford to wait. I had to act now or it would be too late. Grant set me up with a private investigator, someone who could dig into Amber and Michael's financial records and help us gather the proof we needed to stop their plan in its tracks. His name was Harris, a former cop who had worked in fraud investigations. He was sharp, reliable, and exactly what I needed. Harris got to work immediately. He dug into Michael's finances and found that he had racked up a substantial amount of debt, nearly $200,000. The reason? A failed investment. Michael had been gambling, and he was hoping to use my house to pay off his debts. Harris also dug up records showing Amber had opened a credit card in my name without my permission and had been using it to buy jewelry and other expensive items. But that wasn't all. Harris discovered that Amber had contacted at least 3 law firms asking about transferring ownership of my house. She was already preparing to sell it to take everything from me. I knew I had to act fast, but I also knew that I couldn't do it alone. Grant helped me create a plan, one that would expose Amber and Michael's plot and give me the upper hand. But even with all the evidence we had, I still needed to confront them, face to eye, face to face. And when I did, I was going to make sure they realized just who they were up against. Stay with me, because the next part of this story is where everything changes. The day had arrived. The day I would finally confront Amber and Michael. It was one thing to gather the evidence, to have the proof that they were lying, scheming, and betraying me. But it was another thing entirely to stand in front of them and make them face the truth. I wasn't afraid. Not anymore. The fear that had once paralyzed me was gone, replaced by a quiet, burning resolve. I had spent days, weeks preparing for this. I had my evidence, my recordings, and even the testimony of Harris, the private investigator. I wasn't just fighting for myself anymore. I was fighting for the truth, for justice, for everything I had built. The night before the confrontation, I felt calm. Strange, considering what was about to happen. But maybe that was because I knew I was no longer the victim. I was the one who held the cards now. I had played my part well, too well, and it was time for Amber and Michael to see what they had set in motion. It was time to turn the tables. I called Grant Meyer that morning just to make sure everything was in place. He was confident. "Janice," he said, his voice firm, "you've done the hard part. Now it's time for them to face the consequences. We have everything we need to take them down." I could feel a lump in my throat. I wasn't D. Table. I wasn't D. I wasn't D. I wasn't D. I was doing it because I wanted the truth to be heard. I wanted to make sure that what they had planned for me never happened to anyone else. That afternoon, I made my way to the house, our house, the one I had shared with Robert. The house that had always been full of laughter, warmth, and memories. Now, it felt like a battleground. I could see the for sale sign sitting on the lawn, like a cruel reminder of what they were trying to take from me. It's if a string. At seeing a sing dading at settings as zior. Ansite as. Out outside that holding on to take from me. At sea Avrazil Avnak against the Shula so. She was pacing back and forth, her phone pressed to her ear, talking to someone. Michael was nowhere in sight. Good, I thought. He's not here yet. I had a feeling this would go better if I could get Amber alone. I rang the doorbell, trying to steady my nerves. Amber opened the door, her face lighting up with that familiar fake smile. "Mom," she said, as though she hadn't been plotting against me just days before. "I'm so glad you're here. We've been so worried, been so worried. We've been so worried. We've been so worried. We've been so worried." She stepped aside to let me in, her voice oozing with sweetness. I stepped inside, my heart pounding, but my face calm. I wasn't going to let her see how much this hurt. I wasn't going to let her win. Amber closed the door behind me and turned to face me. I was just talking to Michael, she said, looking me up and down like she was trying to read me. He's been so stressed with everything, and we're really just trying to make sure you're taken care of. Or really just trying to make sure you're taken care of. I know, Amber. I know you care about me, but that's not why I'm here. She blinked, clearly thrown off by my directness. What do you mean? I took a deep breath and walked toward the living room. I mean, I know exactly what you and Michael have been up to. I know about the power of attorney. I know about the credit cards you've opened in my name. I know about your plans to sell the house to take everything from me. Her face went pale, the smile fading in it. She opened her mouth to say something, but I held up a hand to stop her. Don't even try to deny it. I have everything, Amber. The recordings, the bank statements, everything. It's all here. I pulled out the small recorder from my purse and held it up, watching her eyes widen in realization. You think I'm stupid, I continued. You think I wouldn't figure out what you were doing? I've known for a while, Amber, but I wanted to make sure I have. Her expression twisted into something ugly. You don't know what you're talking about, Janice, she snapped, her voice growing louder. You're old, forgetful. You're not in your right mind. You don't even remember half the things you say. She was starting to lose control, and I could see it. This was her true face, the one she had been hiding behind that sweet smile. I remember everything, Amber, I said quietly, and I've had enough. This house. This house. This house. Zero shots. Is a house. The one's the house. This house. You, not Michael's. I won't let you take it from me. I turned to the door, ready to leave, but Amber grabbed my arm. What are you going to do, Janice? You can't fight us. We've already got everything in place. The doctor's report, the guardianship petition, the power of attorney. You've already lost. I looked her dead in the eye, my voice calm but firm. No, Amber. You've already lost. You just don't know it yet. With that, I turned and walked out. You just don't know it yet. With that, I turned and walked out, and I didn't wait long. About an hour later, Michael came home. I had expected him to confront me, to try and talk his way out of it. But what I didn't expect was the guilt on his face when he saw me. Mom, he said, his voice shaky. What are you doing here? I raised an eyebrow. I'm here because I know everything, Michael. I know what you and Amber were planning. His face drained of color, and he took a step back. What are you talking about, Al? What are you talking about, Al? What are you talking about, Al? What are you talking about? We were trying to make sure you had the care you need. I shook my head. No, Michael. You weren't trying to help me. You were trying to steal from me. You and Amber were planning to take everything I had. And you thought I wouldn't find out. But I did. He opened his mouth to protest, but nothing came out. The guilt was written all over his face. Finally, he collapsed into the nearest chair, his hands covering his face. I'm sorry, Mom. I didn't know. I didn't know. I didn't know. I didn't know. No. I didn't know. I didn't know. I didn't want to lose everything. Then why didn't you stop her? I asked, my voice barely a whisper. Why didn't you stand up for me? Michael didn't answer. He just sat there defeated, his head bowed in shame. As I walked away from Michael and Amber, I knew the fight wasn't over, but I was one step closer to winning. The truth was out, and now it was time to make sure they couldn't hurt anyone else. Stay with me, because the final chess, because the final chess, the final chess, because the final chess, the final chess, the fushi, because the final chess. The days after that confrontation were a blur of activity. I couldn't shake the image of Michael sitting there, his head bowed in shame, his hands over his face. I had never thought it would come to this, that I would have to confront my own son about something so ugly. But in that moment, I realized that what was most painful wasn't the betrayal. It was the fact that he had allowed Amber to manipulate him. He had been weak, and that was something thinking weak, and that was something thing. There was something thing weak, and that was something thing. I had confronted Michael, but now I had to make sure they would face the consequences of their actions. It wasn't enough for them to just feel guilty. They had to be held accountable for what they had done to me, and what they were trying to do to other people like me. I called Grant Meyer the next morning. "Grant," I said, my voice steady but with a sense of urgency, "it's time. We have everything we need. It's time to go public." Grant, explained. Grant's a grant's time to go public. Grant's da. It's time to make sure they can't hurt anyone else. We didn't waste any time. With the recordings, the bank statements, the proof of forgery, and even Michael's own admissions, we were ready to take them down. But Grant warned me it wasn't going to be easy. Amber had been smart. She had covered her tracks well, and now she was going to fight back with everything she had. But I wasn't afraid. Not anymore. I had come this far, and I wasn't going. Had come this far, and I wasn't going, and I wasn't going, and I wasn't going. The truth would prevail, and Amber and Michael would face justice for what they had done. That afternoon, I took the step that would change everything. I filed the paperwork to challenge the guardianship petition Amber had filed behind my back. I called the authorities and sent them everything I had, evidence, recordings, statements. I made sure every single piece of evidence was accounted for. I wanted to make sure Amber and Michael couldn't wiggle their way out. Couldn't wiggle their way out. As the days passed, I could feel the pressure building. Amber knew what was coming. She could feel it. The house, once full of warmth and laughter, now felt like a place of tension. Every creak in the floor, every sound in the kitchen felt like the walls were closing in. I knew Amber was desperate, and desperation makes people dangerous. The phone calls started coming too. They came late at night, when I was alone, sitting in the quiet of the living room. At the engine, at a assassinate. A section at Tapusis. Atward tension. But then, one night, I couldn't resist. I picked up the phone. Janice. Amber's voice was sweet, too sweet, like honey laced with poison. "I know you're upset, but we can fix this. You don't have to go public with all this. We can still work something out. Just sign the power of attorney and everything will be fine." I felt my stomach twist. "You don't get it, Amber," I said quietly, my voice firm. "I'm not signing anything. Even to this. This is my life, my house, and I'm not going to let you or anyone else take it from me. You've already crossed the line. There's no going back." She was quiet for a moment, and when she spoke again, her voice had an edge to it. "You're making a mistake, Janice. You don't know what you're up against. You can't fight this. We've already won." I shook my head, even though she couldn't see me. "You think you've won, but you haven't. Not by a long shot." I hung up by a long shot. I hung up by a long shot. I hung up by a long shot. I hung up but. I hung up by hung up. I hung up. It was time to make her and Michael pay for what they had done. The trial came faster than I had expected. The court date was set, and I was ready. But as I walked into that courtroom, I realized something. This wasn't just about me anymore. It wasn't just about protecting my home, my savings, or even myself. It was about standing up for everyone who had been silenced, for everyone who had been taken advantage of by their own families. For everyone who had been taken advantage of by their own families. It was. For everyone who had been taken advantage of by their own families. It was. This was bigger than just me. This was for all the people who felt like they had been forgotten. Amber and Michael were already seated at the defendant's table when I walked in. Amber looked the same as always, perfectly put together, her makeup flawless, her hair sleek. But there was something different in her eyes. She knew she was in trouble. Michael, on the other hand, was slumped in his chair, looking exhausted and guilty. He wouldn't meet my eyes. 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 No. I wasn't here for emotions. I was here for justice. The prosecutor stood up and addressed the court. "Your Honor," she said, her voice firm, "today we present the case of fraud, asset theft, and the forging of medical documents. The victim in this case, Miss Janice Whitmore, has had her life manipulated by her own daughter-in-law and son in a scheme to seize control of her assets. This is not just a family dispute, this is a crime. This is not just a family dispute. This is a crime. This is a crime. This is not just a family dispute. This is a crime. The fee that this is a it still cases. Your Honor, he said, this is all a misunderstanding. Miss Whitmore is of sound mind. She has simply misunderstood the actions of her family, who were only trying to help her. There is no malicious intent here. I couldn't hold back a small laugh. Malicious intent? I repeated, loud enough for the whole courtroom to hear. You can't seriously expect anyone to believe that. Amber and Michael tried to steal everything from me. They thought I would think from me. They thought I would steal everything from me. They thought I would. And now they're going to face the consequences. The prosecutor nodded. We have the evidence. We have recordings of Amber making false claims about Miss Whitmore's health, forging medical records, and contacting law firms about transferring assets. We have bank statements showing unauthorized credit card use, and we have witness testimony. The truth is undeniable. Amber's face went pale. She opened her mouth to protest, but no words came out. Her lawyer tried to salvage the situation, but it was clear they were losing ground fast. Then it was my turn to speak. I stood up slowly, my heart pounding in my chest. But I didn't hesitate. I walked to the stand, and when I looked around, I saw the faces of the jury, the judge, and even the reporters in the back of the courtroom. They were all watching me, waiting for me to speak. I could feel the weight of their eyes, but I didn't falter. I didn't falter. It falter. I is orta and fuse the king. I added initial counts. I did. You have F says it too. At east of the cliche. Shan't you 51 us? I'm 69 years old, and I've spent my life working hard for everything I have. My husband Robert and I built a life together here. This house is my home. It's where my memories are, where my heart is. And for the last few months, my family has been trying to take it all from me. My own son and daughter-in-law have been plotting to declare me incompetent, to take everything I've worked for. But I'm not incompetent. I'm not weak. I'm here today to make sure that what they tried to do to me never happens to anyone else. The courtroom was silent. You could hear a pin drop. I didn't just come here for myself, I continued. I came here for all the people who have been manipulated, who have been hurt by their families. I'm not the only one. There are so many like me, and I'm not going to let Amber and Michael get away with this. When the trial ended, I was exhausted. Exhausted. Now all that was left was the verdict. I waited, holding my breath. When the judge finally spoke, his voice was clear and firm. The court finds the defendants, Amber Whitmore and Michael Whitmore, guilty of fraud, forging medical records, and attempting to seize assets under false pretenses. The defendants are hereby sentenced to 12 years in prison for Amber Whitmore and 9 years for Michael Whitmore. Additionally, the court issues a lifetime protection order for Miss Janice Whitmore under the Elder Protection Act. Tears filled my eyes, but they were tears of relief. Justice had been served. Amber and Michael had been held accountable for their actions, and I had won. Leaving the courtroom that day, I knew my life would never be the same. But I also knew that I had reclaimed what was mine, my home, my dignity, and my voice. And from that day forth, and from that day forth, what was that shit? I hope my story reminds you that no matter how old we get, we always have the power to fight back. As I look back on everything that happened, I realized just how much strength it took to get to this point. But it wasn't just about winning a case or getting my house back. It was about finding my voice again, standing up for myself, and proving that no one, not even family, can take that away from you. The hardest part of this journey wasn't the betrayal. It was realizing that the people I trusted the most had planned to take everything I had worked for. But through all of that, I found courage where I didn't know it existed. And if there's one thing I want you to take away from my story, it's this. No matter how old you are never too weak to fight for what's right. Your voice matters, and you deserve to be heard. So never let anyone convince. Keep pushing for justice, because in the end, it's worth it. If my story resonated with you, or if you've ever faced a similar struggle, I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. Please share your experiences because together we can support each other and make sure no one feels alone in the fight for justice. And if you found my story inspiring, don't forget to give this video a thumbs up. It helps more people see these important stits. It might just help someone else who needs to hear it. If you haven't already, make sure to hit the subscribe button and ring the bell so you never miss a new story. I'll be sharing more powerful journeys, and I don't want you to miss out on what's coming next. Thank you so much for being a part of this journey with me. Stay strong and remember, justice never grows old. See you in the next video.